welcome to Let's Talk About Live Shopping, a series dedicated to the unraveling the intricacies, and we know there are a lot of them, on video commerce and really marketing in general, and this whole kind of smashing together that's happening at this moment. I'm your host, Cynthia Nelson, three-time entrepreneur, Forbes contributor, investor, and advisor. Today, I have the distinct pleasure to be talking to someone with a big voice and a big name, Jesse Kirshbaum, CEO of NUE Agency. Good morning, Jesse, and welcome.
What an intro. I feel like we need some Tony Robbins, Laker girls dancing.
Oh, dude, cocktails are on you next time. That's all.
Let's get the pump up. That's great. Roll me out. Let's get to work.
First up, I want to know how you started the agency. Like, why is it different? Like, what was that kind of inspirational moment or inflection point, or what was it that actually made you want to create something different than what was out there?
When I started originally in this business of music and culture, which I was in love with as soon as I realized that you actually could be in a business of music, I realized that I wanted to do things differently. And instead of going to the William Morrises or the CAAs, the traditional route of the mailroom, I went boutique and I hustled a pass to get into celebrity access. And I got a 1-week membership, and I called every agency I could find, knowing that as an agent, you could learn many facets of the business. I was already throwing parties. I was already in the mix downtown. So I got into working at these boutique agencies. At 22, the head of the agency at this company called American Talent in Westchester, where I was living at the time, said to me, "You can skip even being an assistant if you can sign talent." And so there was a lot of learning on the go. But at 22, I signed this group over my head called the Clips. I had a bunch of kind of failed attempts, and then eventually I got a group to go with me, and they went #2 on the pop charts. Obviously, the album went gold. It's a classic. We went on tour with Nelly. We went on tour with Jay-Z all throughout Europe. We went on tour with 50 Cent in colleges, and then I got fired and ultimately learned a lot about how this music business works. And from there, over the next kind of 8 to 10 years, I worked at various other companies. I worked in LA in the video game business. I learned about the digital revolution. I saw how music in the industry was changing. And I was really optimistic about tech. And I was really optimistic about the youth. And I noticed that there was a niche that the industry had that was really how these agencies could be approaching the technology space and how they could be approaching the college market. And I launched NUE Agency originally as a talent representation house in my late 20s to be something that was different, a new way, so to speak, a new universal entertainment agency. And so it was really focused on where I thought the market was not and passion points that fit my personality. And for the first 7 years, I represented artists and was breaking them in innovative ways and talking about them in innovative ways and finding them in innovative ways. In the college market, a lot of the artists that I was signing were still in college at the time. And exploding from that, like releasing albums as lectures through iTunes U, just breaking the system because technology and social media was just exploding, and artists were at the forefront of it, as musicians usually are. And then about 7 years into that, I changed my business model to representing brands. And that's what I currently do. It's not your grandpa's agency. It's really focused on the intersection of culture and music and entertainment and deep diving from an artist representation lens, but also really understanding brands and how to break bands using these kind of innovative methods to then help brands do campaigns, to launch products, to make conferences, events cooler, to help big brands connect to their consumers by leveraging the power of culture and entertainment and music. So it really stems from doing things differently, and it's really passionate about the kind of intersection of technology, music, and entertainment and brand marketing.
I mean, you're first to market in this because it's been a lot of people talk about it now. Oh yeah, you know, we're doing something now. We're being really in culture with our brand. We're doing it, and frankly, most of them are missing the mark still. Because they're not hiring agencies like you to refresh their brand, bring their brand up to snuff, and yet they're all talking about, oh, well, you know, creators are the new brands, brands are the new creators. You know, we're going to get involved with this, and we're going to understand it. And yet, the people that are making the decisions at the brand marketing level are not in the culture, are not where the kids are. I mean, look what Supreme did as just like a simple example. I was just walking by the Supreme store on Sunset yesterday, and I was with a couple colleagues of mine, and they said, "Oh, you know, it's closed most of the time." I said, what are you talking about? It's like right on Sunset, like right on Sunset. Great, huge location, valet parking, like big location. Can't be cheap, right? That neighborhood's not cheap. And they said, no, it's closed most of the time until they have a really significant drop. And then they open up and there's lines, you know, down the street. And then there's hustlers that come and they bring knockoffs and they're on the sidewalk where their kids are all lined up to go into Supreme, and they're selling like knockoffs of stuff that's happened before. There's like totally $40, $50, $30 rotation. I'm like, but that's the culture that Supreme created around their brand with influencers, and people like, how did they do that? The product, it's not about the product. It's about the emotion and the collectability and the drops, dummy. Like, it's
It's
like,
it's an
guys,
amazing brand.
amazing.
Drop culture has now kind of, and they really, in a lot of ways, spearheaded it, and
Yeah, I was gonna say,
especially with their app and their
yeah,
technology.
yeah,
It's just safer. I mean, honestly, there's a drop in 17 minutes. It's
yeah,
the Thursday
yeah,
Supreme drop. Like, I'm a little nervous. Like, I've seen, I want to see what's coming out. I want to see the prices. I like to know what's selling. I don't, rarely will I buy, but if there
right,
is something I'm in love with,
yeah,
I'm gonna cop it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just the excitement of getting that alert, or knowing that this is Supreme season. Uh,
And
and,
you're
and yeah,
and you're in the know, like you're part of that. You feel like, you know, they built this kind of very hard to do, but very coveted community, right? You feel
yeah,
like you're part of the community because you're in the know. Like you get this app, you're in the know and you get access to things that other people are not going to get.
but it's also on scale,
It's
right?
and
They
again, yeah,
now that
yeah,
they're
there's the
owned by North Face and they're
yeah,
part of this larger conglomerate, and
yeah,
the gig is up. Like, there's just, they can create mass scale, they can print on demand.
yeah,
How they itemize and create scarcity is so interesting because they're servicing a huge clientele at this point.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they're doing it on scale. And when it comes to other brands and other brand marketing, yeah, I mean, I sit at a table sometimes with a lot of major agencies or much bigger platforms. And what I am is that expert, somebody that really lives it, somebody that really practices it, somebody that's been doing it for over a decade, a trusted voice that writes about it, that chronicles it, that has a track record of working with some of the biggest brands and artists in the world on a regular basis, and so many cool startups. Somebody that's multifaceted, someone that's a professor at American University's business school on this space, really teaching about partnerships and entertainment and this digital revolution. So I think I being nimble at this point is a big
yeah,
advantage to me, because somebody can easily bring us in. We can sit nicely at the table or play in the sandbox with all of these agencies that, you know, represent media buys and social spends and SEO and creative on scales that we don't handle, but
right.
we're really focused on our lane. And I think people really appreciate having our opinion and our nuances. Another great use of the word new,
Yeah,
our
yeah,
nuances when we're working with a brand or an executive or a company that
yeah.
wants to really be in culture the right way.
Yeah, I think that carving out that space is so smart because, you know, the big agencies, and we all work with them, right? They can't do everything. There's absolutely no possible way. Yeah, you can buy $50 billion worth of media at scale programmatically, but you can't do this. Like, you can't do this. This is not what you do. So it's smart of them to bring you in and work with the brands and not feel threatened, right? Feel like we're bringing in someone who's really in culture and available and can actually answer the questions and direct us and the brand in the right way. Those are smart agencies because, again, they try to do everything under the sun, and then you end up failing at everything under the sun, right?
It's great, even if I'm validating a point
Exactly.
as a trend report or as somebody that can be a cultural expert on
Yeah.
something. I
Yeah.
can help to push a reason if it fits.
Yeah.
And I've blown up campaigns, but for
Yeah.
the most part,
Sure.
a lot of the intuition is right. It
Yeah.
just needs some tweaks or some nuances or the right artist to
Yes.
make this come to life at the right price.
Exactly. I'm gonna pivot just for a second because something just happened in the news, which it's got to be kind of near and dear to your heart. This whole network investment buying Complex, and that was an investment that was also with Universal Music. So, this is kind of two powerhouse things coming together. What are your thoughts? What's happening there? Why is it happening?
In the world of shopping, this is really, really exciting. This is a chance for two brands that are kind of pioneers in culture and commerce to come together in an instance where individually they might not have been in this great space right this minute, but a 1 + 1 could equal 11. They
Yeah.
really could spearhead what I hope will be a online shopping commerce boom in America, like it is in other regions. I know this is something that you're passionate about and speak a lot about. This
Yes.
is an intersection where it just hasn't taken off yet the way it should. I want to know about what I want to buy and how I want to buy it and how it's in tune with culture. And to be able to understand these products in a way where there's great content, there's
Right.
great events,
Yeah.
and now there's great commerce, limited edition drops. They should be eating Supreme's lunch if they execute.
If they execute, that's the whole thing. If they can execute the right way, it should give them a run for their money for sure.
Yeah, and I think, look, they play great with brands.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
play great with artists.
yeah,
They have a media impression reach. I've
yeah,
worked with the teams for many years. I like them all,
yeah,
and know that they really understand and respect culture. And it's going to be about execution. It's going to be about sales. It's going to be about scale. It's going to be about being omnipresent.
yeah,
They're going to need to get lucky. They're going to need to put really cool collaborations together.
yeah,
Complex Con has to reinvigorate itself.
yeah,
I think that with Universal behind it, is Universal too big? Is Universal too omnipresent? Is Universal have too much of a stronghold on the music business? That's a question, but they are doing phenomenal. And
yeah,
this is going to be a smart investment for them to be able to uh, have a probably another exit, right? Because both of these companies might not have been doing extremely well under their
right.
current situation, but now you put them together,
Yeah,
you put a new cash influx, you put new energy out in the marketplace. I think this rebrand could really catapult a whole category that hasn't been around since maybe Karma Loop.
yeah. I'm glad you're pointing that out too, because the one plus, a lot of people are kind of scratching, well, it's got Universal and it has whatever, they do this stuff all the time. Like, yeah, but like, 1 + 1 could equal 4 on this one. This could be a significant market cap increase for everybody, and Universal, sitting back and saying, we made a really good choice. We have the capital and the cash to actually do that, and the artists and the wherewithal, and they've been kind of trying to get more tech forward as the music industry has continued to evolve and to change. Um, what about AI and artists? There's so much screeching happening right now. Like, I've been hearing, oh my God, it's going to replace the artists. It's going to do this with Sora coming out and all. Oh, we're never going to be able to do this again. And you're not going to know if it's a real artist or if it's actually an AI version of it. What are your thoughts on it?
It definitely has to be watched. It definitely has to be monitored. And I think we're going to see music again at the forefront of the digital revolution, doing a huge use case. But I think it's also a huge hype chamber where a lot of people are just talking about this and maybe not even understanding what they're saying. When fake Drake dropped,
Yeah.
it wasn't necessarily AI. It was a
Yeah.
TikTok filter essentially on his voice.
Yeah.
A rapper was rapping like Drake and using a filter or an auto tune to
Right.
make his voice sound like Drake.
Yeah.
How is that necessarily AI?
Right.
But I do think that music is going to be disrupted and enhanced in so many ways because of AI. First of all, putting the musical inputs into these AI generators is going to end up being a great revenue generator for music IP holders. So there's another big boom for catalog holders.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's going to put demand for the best, the best songwriters, the best human touch, the best, most innovative, different thinkers are also going to now be even more in demand because AI is just kind of racing the bottom. But
Right.
then what it's going to do to the music business ultimately is, and it's already starting to happen with all these great tools out there, is raise the level of the amateur and
Yeah.
bring more amateur performers into the music business. All of a sudden, as an amateur, I can write with ChatGPT
Yeah.
a God level lyrics song
Yeah.
to you around themes that I want,
Yeah.
perform it with an auto tune filter in a cadence that feels better or in a crooning sound that I'd like.
Yeah.
I could put a beat through AI that's
Yeah.
cheap to a layer to it, to whatever, if I want it to sound like Sinatra or if I want it to sound like Jay-Z.
Yeah.
And then I can put this out on Spotify and on social media
It
in
happens. Yeah. In
a
seconds.
couple clicks of a button. So all of a sudden, I could play you, and this hasn't happened yet, but in 6 months to a year, I'm going to be able to play you my own Spotify playlist of 15 songs that I've written,
Yeah.
produced,
Yeah.
performed, and released about anything from Miami
Yeah.
to marketing,
Right.
and have my own nuances to it. And all of a sudden, I'm a performer mixed in on a playlist with Jay-Z and Sinatra
Yeah.
with really very little work and very little skill. And that's amazing for the business because it means more people can be musicians. And it's like,
Well, exactly. How do we find them, right? The traditional way of finding musicians was going to shows and seeing them, right? The scouts and AR people would go to shows, see someone that they're out every night, watching shows, going to places, finding them. Then YouTube disrupted all of that, right? They were breaking new artists. Like who broke Adele? Did you know, did Sony in Europe do it? Or did YouTube do it? I would say YouTube did it. I would probably lean on the YouTube side, right?
it wasn't even Sony. It was a small indie label called
It,
XL that
it
released Adele at the start.
early, yes. And that so it's like, and then how did she blow up and was she, so the tech has always been there. The artists have already jumped over the top and said, like, I don't need, do I need a label? I don't know. Do I need you, the label needs them. And gone are the days of the big, huge mass budgets that they used to have to be able to bring new artists in and create all this stuff. You know, they're now, how do they invest in a smarter, better way? Well, gosh, if they're using the internet at all and they're searching for people like YouTube, Spotify, all again, it's opening up this whole new area for new artists to come in that you wouldn't have known about before, that are creating new beats that can be monetized, that are creating songs and song lists and playlists that can be monetized. Um,
And it
I
connects more
do,
people to music.
so I say it brings more people into the genre itself versus everyone being so afraid that it's going to take their creativity away. Well, you're the only one that takes your creativity away.
And yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
it is.
music's looking for its next big swing as an industry. And this just feels like this is too perfect timing wise. Music's already being listened to more than ever,
Yeah,
being created more than ever,
yeah,
being released more than ever. More artists are touring, more artists are doing brand partnerships. It's a
yeah.
really good time to be in the music business. When I first started out, I was watching this industry spiral from an
Oh
era
yeah,
of
oh
CDs.
yeah,
And now what we're seeing is just a huge growth era. And I think AI is going to now allow music, which is a universal language, a great connector,
Yeah.
something that everybody across the world can feel and experience together,
Yeah.
all of a sudden now we can all be connected to music even deeper. I think this is a good thing on all levels for the music business, although it's going to be choppy.
Yeah.
There's going to need to be regulation.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
be guardrails.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, at first it's scary,
Yeah.
right? The same way all new
Right, the internet was
technology.
scary. I mean, seriously, like the internet was scary. Nobody knew what it was. So like we got over that really quickly.
There's clear use cases for
There's
AI. It's not
clearly
like we're
clear.
Web3, which is an interesting world. It's just not figured out yet. There hasn't
Yeah.
been any success stories when it comes to music and Web3. There's
Yeah.
been a lot of trials. There's been a
Yeah.
lot of use, like
Yeah.
try and learn. There's definitely been some bumps along the road. There's some cool stories, but there hasn't been like, oh, I get this. This
Yeah.
actually is going to be how royalty payments are going to be revolutionized, or
Right.
tickets are going to
Right.
change, or
Right. Right.
it just isn't there. Whereas in AI, this is going to be a monumental shift in a couple facets of the business. One, in revenue, and two, in this new amateur market that's just going to get bigger and juicier and make the long tail of music even more swaggy or waggy, right? We're going to start to be able to wag the industry by the long tail.
I
Uh,
from your lips to God's ears, Sony's, Universal's, like I want them to jump on the bandwagon and actually acknowledge this and actually go for it. And Universal seems to be in that way kind of leading the way, which I'm like, congrats for being smart,
they're
frankly.
doing what they should do in this place where they have this much leverage.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not trickling to the artists and their model so much. So I do think
Yeah.
that there's a fundamental issue with the way the labels are operating. And
Yes.
I don't think it's necessarily great for the artists and the
Yeah.
musicianship. And I think there could be a revolt, and we're still feeling a little bit of a revolt of artists that are going indie. More and more indie artists are taking control of the market.
Yeah.
But as Universal, as a bank that invests,
Yeah.
they're looking for opportunities to keep their finger on the pulse and to get X amount returns, and to support the next evolution of ways that their IP is going to be used. It's a venture fund at this
Yeah.
point, and artists are a small part of their venture marketing arm. But it's really like they're looking for the next Spotify, where they
Yeah.
made billions of dollar payouts by partnering with the next great tech companies. And there's no question that AI could present that opportunity.
If done
And so
right.
if they do it right, I think TikTok's going to present that
I
opportunity.
think so too. Yeah. Another big tech play that I think is not everybody's, oh, it's going to get kicked out of the US. I'm like, yeah, no, it's not.
Not if they can do a legitimate deal with Universal, who's holding out right now, but
But
ultimately you spin TikTok off from ByteDance, you
yeah,
take Universal's catalog, it
yeah,
legitimizes them, you
yeah,
get deals with other labels, and then you take TikTok public
yeah,
at a $10 billion exit all of a sudden, more. And all of these labels have equity in the company, they're getting royalty rates, and they're going to get a monster payout when this thing IPOs.
yeah,
And it solves the question of, is this Chinese spyware? No, it's owned by the
yeah.
people.
And it actually gives them an opportunity to kind of I mean they tried this before, right? With Vivo on the video side. It was Universal, Sony, right, coming together. It gives them the opportunity to actually do it the right way this time.
Yeah, and look,
Be at
they were
the
starting
be at
something
the
from
front of it,
nothing.
not at the end of it, right? Be at the front of it, not at the end of it, trying to compete with YouTube, but at the front of it, actually taking something that's legit and out there and actually partnering with it. That's what would make sense to me.
I would think that it's a lot easier than rubbing sticks together and creating the next YouTube. You just jump on a bandwagon that's already taken off and might
Yeah,
have peaked,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
TikTok's got its own issues, but
yeah,
TikTok's efficient in
yeah,
selling products and breaking artists and
yeah,
going viral.
yeah.
Whatever it is, good or bad, it's having its moment. And there's a big cash out that they could be doing rather than just keeping it inside of ByteDance.
Great.
And it just seems to me like that could be a chess move. That's another billion-dollar
Yeah.
boom for Universal.
I would love to hear what Kevin Mayer had to say since he was there for 5 minutes.
Let's bring him on next.
We got to call McCandle, Kevin. What's going on? Nice guy, by the way.
And a good tennis player, I hear.
I hear that too. And he's hired some great people over at Candle Media a couple that I've worked with that are just phenomenal that I love. And I'm like, okay,
Agreed.
you're smart.
Agreed. Kendall.
No,
Brent
Kendall, I was gonna say
Weinstein.
Kendall, like
Yes,
right there, like just she's amazing,
real, both
real,
of them.
really,
I'm
yeah,
enamored.
me,
Kendall, when you talk about insights and trends, there's really
nobody
nobody as good with a heart.
with
Um,
totally
so
agree.
shouts to Kevin Mayer. Call us.
Yeah,
Let's
call it.
talk more.
We'll talk. Um, you have a very big following and audience on your Beats and Bytes, and you've been doing this newsletter for a long time. Tell us about it. What, as a thought leader in the space, like what are the things besides what we just went off on a rant on? What are the other things you're looking at and talking about in your newsletter, and how do people sign up for this? First of all, how do they get?
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks a lot, Cynthia.
Yeah,
So when we started NUE Agency, it was really about how do we embrace tech? How
yeah,
do we put a spotlight on these tech companies, befriending the next evolution of kind of brands that we thought were going to usher in the new music
yeah,
business, especially when the music business was shunning them,
yeah.
when music tech was not wanted or not welcome at the table.
Oh yeah,
And so that was a definite thesis with the company. And what we started to do is these music and tech events around. When I first moved to New York and started NUE Agency, I was doing things in these kind of meetups, or there was tweet ups and there was video
yeah,
meetups, but there's nothing with music and tech. So
yeah,
we just started to embrace the thought leaders in the space, bring people together, and we started getting great crowds, people turning out for these events. We would take the Tower Records, obscure, desolate, kind of old storefront and turn it into a panel space that we partner with Social Media Week on, and just do these kind of music and tech conversations, which allowed me to build a kind of audience in music and tech. From there, and it was also a way to find deals for
yeah, yeah,
my
of course.
artists
Yeah, yeah,
and to position us with that. But I was passionate about the space. I started to see that this is where things are going in this industry.
yeah,
From there, we did an award show, and we really highlighted who we thought were the best and the brightest in music and tech, and just tried to amplify, use our light to shine it on what we thought was going to usher in the next evolution of the music business. Eventually, throwing these events, we got busy, and
yeah,
throwing these events are great, especially when you're young and starting out and meeting
yeah, yeah.
people.
Always.
But it's not necessarily the greatest use of our time when it comes to creating revenue or running a business or wherever we're at in our lives in our 30s. So we got a lot more selective and decided to take that kind of exciting list and turn it into what was at the time a newsletter.
Mhm.
And that's really where Beats and Bytes was born, was taking these kind of attendees list and turning them into a place where we could communicate ideas, highlight companies, kind of take the same thesis of what we were doing with these early events and award show, and kind of talking about it. As that's gone on for probably 7, 8 years, maybe even more, I've developed more of a voice.
Yeah,
I've really honed my POV.
yeah,
I've worked feverishly on scouring the internet for articles every single week. It's like going to the trends gym. I say I review 1,000 articles, read 100 articles, and pick 10 that I think are going to be relevant to the audience. So it's definitely keeps me sharp. It keeps
yeah,
me on the pulse, and it's a give back in a lot of ways to the industry, because it allows other people to see what we're seeing and kind of influences a school of thought. I do think in this day and age, as a CEO or an executive or an investor, you do need a platform. You do need a place that you can speak directly to your constituents. And having a newsletter has been so impactful for that. Not only can I highlight other people to an audience that's continuing to grow, it also allows me to stay top of mind
yeah,
in other people's inboxes, talking about things that either that we're working on or things that are important to us, and or people for people that are interested in the intersection of music and technology and brand marketing, which is kind of our super niche.
right.
So I really enjoy it. It's a serendipity bomb. Each week it goes out. You never know what's going to come back. It's really interesting who it resonates with and how and why. It's a growing audience. It's something that I put a lot of love and care into, talking about different things. This week we talked about the moon landing and all the music and Jeff Koons's art that was just dropped off on the moon and hasn't been,
I heard
nobody's
about
been on
that.
the moon.
Congratulations, by the way. That's super
Thank
amazing
you.
that you guys were in there.
Really cool
Very cool.
experience. And again, it just gets my marketing mind rolling on how many ways we can impact. Like music, the moon is such a universal key figure.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
who doesn't see and feel and connect to the moon? Not to mention, we're going to ramping up. We haven't been to the moon since the 70s. And now
Yeah.
this is our first successful mission where we've landed on the moon. Humans are going in 2026.
Yeah.
There's going to be the solar eclipse in a couple months, but
Yeah.
there's just so many moon moments that could happen or could spin off from more and more space exploration.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's a cultural branding marketing opportunity. So that's the
Okay,
type of thing that
so
we
I have
highlight.
to do like 5 introductions after this, but one of them in particular, because I love him so much. You mentioned Moon. I'm just talking Moon Man here. I'm talking Les Garland, who started MTV with Pittman and yeah, all the team. He lives in LA now. He's a really good friend of mine. I absolutely adore him. He always still has his finger completely on the pulse of what's happening in music um, to
What a
this day.
legend.
And he's a legend.
Ahead
And
of
I've
his
held I've
time.
held the Moon Man when he was in Miami, when he lived in Miami, I lived in Miami. I got to hold the Moon Man. So when you brought it up, I was like,
Fun.
it's such the iconic symbol, right?
How did he know to even create that as the award, like as this aspirational in the MTV glory days when he was building this thing and the VMAs really broke the
Yeah,
channel in a lot of ways,
yeah,
and brought everybody together. It was more impactful than the Grammys in its glory.
completely,
And
completely.
why did he know that
That is like a
movement?
whole nother, like I have to introduce you anyway, so you guys can go off and talk. But he is one of the most interesting, fun, crazy, great people that I know. And like he'll just be like, oh yeah, no, I'm like, when I Fleetwood Mac, I saw them when they came back together in New York, right? So I'm in the audience, I'm seeing them, and I see pictures of Les with Mick Fleetwood in the back. Like I'm like, okay, yeah, I should have called because I would like that ticket. Like I
You
want to be
have to have him
there.
on the show,
Yeah,
and he'd be amazing. I would
yeah.
love that episode. So
He's super fun and really a great person and I won't make the introduction anyway. But you have been an incredible guest. We've talked about some topics that I haven't talked about on the podcast. But I really again love and enjoy, and this has been a great session. I really thank you so much.
my pleasure. Look, when it comes to music and marketing, it's not obvious, but it's really impactful. Like my belief is that everybody should be thinking about a music strategy. Even your show would benefit from having a music strategy, music guests, music in the intro
Yeah,
music. It
I
just makes everything better.
better. I agree
So
with you.
that's what we do is we try to make everything better through the power of music. And that's my mission. And if there's any way I can help anybody, just let me know. If you want to sign up for
Yeah,
my newsletter,
yeah.
it's
Tell them how to get a hold of you and how to sign up.
yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best place. I'm keeping good tabs on all of that. And on top of that, there's a newsletter sign up on my website, which hopefully will be in the show notes.
Yeah.
And so if you can't find me, you must not be looking for me because I'm pretty accessible on Google and online and everything. So it's definitely an honor to be here. And really, I'm very inspired by what you're doing and how you're wearing so many hats and staying consistent with all of this. And congrats and thanks for having me on there and thanks for helping champion the message of music and marketing.
I love it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And ditto right back at you. Big hugs now that you're in Miami. Love, I was there for 12 years. Love it. I hope you're having fun.
Yeah, Miami's a great city. I feel like I'm in a place that's on the rise. There's definitely a lot of perks to being here. And, it's fun to be in a little bit of a smaller pond right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also it's just a great lifestyle.
Yeah. No,
It's
completely. I
it's
get
not
it.
the Miami it was 5 years ago. It's feels like it's not the Miami it was 2 years ago.
It's changed tremendously, but I'm glad that you're there and having a good time. And when you're out in LA, let me know.
Awesome. I'm going to be there soon for the Women in Music Gala.
Yes, yes, yes. Look me
So
up.
hopefully, definitely.
Take care. Thanks, Jesse.
You got it.
Bye.
Peace.